Bore da, blwyddyn pump. Welcome to another week of blended learning. Another week looking at our project Newport Rising. I know I can speak for myself and the other teachers when I say I am super excited to see what you get up to this week. I'm going to be talking you through our menu for this week and then focusing on one of the activities in a little bit more detail today. Just as a reminder then, your teachers will be posting the link to our Together Learning website, which looks a little bit like this, and that's where you will find your learning for the week. Another quick reminder, don't forget to scroll down underneath the menu to resources. It looks a little bit like this. It says Y5, this icon. Please, please, please click on that. It will take you to a Google Drive, and that's where all the resources will be saved to help you. Those are going to be especially important this week, so please make sure that you are using them to help you, okay? The three purposes we are focusing on are being ethical, informed citizens who are knowledgeable about their culture, community, society and the world now and in the past. We're going to be ambitious, capable learners who set ourselves high standards and seek and enjoy challenge. And we're going to be enterprising, creative contributors who think creatively to reframe and solve problems. Put those to the back of your mind now. At the end of my explanation, I'm going to be asking you how you think that we are going to meet each of those strands. Right then, here are your activities for this week. Now, there are only 2 this week, but they are a little bit more detailed and they're going to take you a little bit more time, which is why we thought we'd only give you 2. The first one I'm going to focus on is the one on the right. I'm going to skim through this for you. The wonderings at the top say, what charter would you draw up for the modern day? What issues are we facing in the current era? And our learning goal is going to be to create and present our own charter. Okay. In the 1800s, John Frost and the Chartists, we know, drew up a charter, which remember is a legal document stating the rights and responsibilities of a group of people, with ways of overcoming the problems they were facing because they wanted to make Wales a better place. Have a think about what problems Wales is facing today. A pandemic, poverty, climate change, racism, or maybe there's another problem that you can think of. You need to choose one of these problems and create your own charter for the Welsh Government with ways that you think we could overcome it. You need to remember to include at least 4 different demands that you think would make a difference to your chosen problem. Now you can present your charter however you wish, and please, please, please have a look in the resource folder we just talked about for inspiration, as you can see on the right here. Some of those examples you won't be able to read excuse me, they're in a different language or they're far too small to read, but they're there to give you some inspiration on the ways that you could present your work. Perhaps you could tea stain your charter to make it look really old, or you could research an ancient font and you could use that to help present your charter. You could even create a video if you want to help you explain it. Please do not forget about the success criteria in bold at the bottom there. You need to read it, you need to refer to it. That is your tick list. That, remember, is how you can be successful. For this job, it says I can explain what a charter is. I can choose a modern day problem. I can give my charter a title. I can list at least 4 demands that may improve the situation. And I can choose how to present my work. So nice and straightforward if you use your success criteria. Remember, be creative. It's entirely up to you what this looks like. Don't forget the reflection at the bottom there. I know we've been seeing a lot more of these, which is amazing. For this job, it's tweet, tweet. Can you write a short tweet to the Welsh Government summing up your charter, and what hashtags will you include? That's the first job. The second job we're going to look into in a little bit more detail now. The Wondering says, what would the Newport Rising protest look like in a graphic novel? And your learning goal is to design and improve a graphic novel page. The first thing you need to do is take a look at the extracts in the resource section that I talked about of a graphic novel based on the Chartist movement called Newport Rising. Okay, so this is a graphic novel that has been written based on the Chartist movement, based on Newport Rising. It's not entirely accurate because it's set in the future and they weren't quite as funky looking as they are in the graphic novel, but I suppose that makes it a little bit more interesting. And of course, it's based on the true story of the protest. Once you've had a look at those extracts, you need to use those as inspiration to help you plan, design, and redraft your own graphic novel page based on Newport Rising. Your page can look however you like, and you could use Adobe Spark, you could use PowerPoint, or you don't have to use technology, you could draw it by hand if you want to, but you need to be sure to fill whatever side page you are using and make it bold. Now, don't forget about that word redraft, okay? When you've done your first draft, you could send it over to your teacher for some help with feedback, or if you don't want to, you could self-assess and improve your own work, but you must do a first and a final draft with some improvements. This success criteria is now really going to help you understand what to do. I can choose a part of the Newport Rising protest to base my page on, because you only need to do one page, so that's one part of the protest. I can plan my ideas, including sketching out positions for pictures and text, using a pencil and paper. So you need to plan your ideas first. I can draw, create, or copy images to fill the page. I can include text in boxes and/or speech bubbles, which we'll talk about now. I can reflect on my work, so reflect on your first draft and decide how you're going to improve it. And finally, you can create your final draft using your improvements with lots of colour. Again, don't forget about the reflection when you finish everything. You can complete the reflection, which is green for growth, and you can tell us what you improved from your draft, how you improved it, and if you had to do another draft, what would you do differently next time? Okay, remember now, you can pause this video, you can come back to it at any point if you need a little bit of extra help, because now we're going to talk about graphic novels. So this will help you with that second task. So what is a graphic novel? A graphic novel is a narrative work, so a story that is predominantly, so mostly told through artwork. They're similar to comic books, however, they're bound and printed more like a book. So it's almost somewhere between a comic book and a normal storybook, if you like. Graphic novels are often the inspiration behind films and TV series, and loads of films and TV series you would have seen actually started out as graphic novels. I've put a few examples at the bottom there, like Batman, Spider-Man, Artemis Fowl, Coraline. I'm sure there's loads and loads more. Have a think now. Have you ever read a graphic novel? Have you ever seen or heard of a graphic novel? Please let your teacher know what graphic novels you've heard of or you've seen or you've read, because I know they would find that really, really interesting to see what you guys have come across. Okay, a bit more then about graphic novels. The illustration, remember that means the pictures and the images, is hugely important in graphic novels. It helps to tell the story and it sets the entire scene and the tone for your story, whether it's going to be a mystery or a horror or a fairy tale, whatever your story is going to be. There is usually very little text aside from a brief description of what's happening and some dialogue, which we'll look at now. There are lots of different styles of illustration because they form the bulk of your graphic novel, from simple black and white images to collages and everything in between. So this is your chance to get creative, guys. All we're asking is that you base it on a scene from Newport Rising. The rest is up to you. Text is also important in telling the story. Although graphic novels mostly and predominantly use images, text is still important so that we understand the images. They help to tell the story and move your narrative along. So let's look at a couple of different ways you could use text in a graphic novel. The first one here is a speech bubble. I'm sure you've all heard of a speech bubble and you've probably seen them before. It's when a character is speaking and the tail of a speech bubble, which is circled in red there, should always point to a character's mouth. Nice and easy. At the bottom of the slide there, we've got a thought balloon. Similar to a speech bubble, but now we're showing what a character is thinking. The tail is made up of smaller bubbles and it should point towards a character's head, not their mouth, their head, because it shows what they're thinking. And it does say here you should have at least 3 little bubbles that get smaller as you're going towards the head of the character. That depends how specific and accurate you'd like to be with your thought bubbles. Just remember that's when someone is thinking. Back up here, we've got burst balloons. Burst balloons are used when someone is shouting or screaming their speech. They are often in bold and they often have words that are bigger or underlined for even more emphasis. So these stand out and they have the jaggedy lines around them to show that someone is shouting or screaming. You may want to use one of those in your page to do with the Newport Rising. Finally, at the bottom there, we've got captions. Now, these tend to be in a box, which could be a rectangle or could be another shape, but they don't have a tail. That's because these are almost like the narration. They show time and place most of the time. For example, meanwhile, or in a mystical far, far away land. So they show where something is happening and when. Those are the 4 main types of text that you could use for your page if you wanted to. You don't have to use every single one. You could just choose to focus on 1 or 2 or 3, or perhaps you feel it would be appropriate to use all 4. That just depends on your page. Okay, let's see how well you are listening. Pause me now and match the image to its name and to its definition. So match up the type of speech to its name to what it means. Pause me now. Okay, if you're ready to move on, here are the answers. There we go. So the first one was a thought balloon, and we can remember that because the tail is made up of smaller bubbles and it points towards the character's head, shows what they are thinking. Second one was captions. Remember that they are normally in a rectangle and they show time and place. Third one was burst balloons, when someone is shouting or screaming. And finally, I hope I didn't make you jump then, speech bubbles, where the tail is pointed to someone's mouth because it shows that they are speaking. How many did you get? Very good. Okay. Now remember, the first thing you need to do to complete this job is have a look in the resource folder at the pages from this graphic novel, Newport Rising. Magpie some of these ideas, okay? We don't want to copy it, but you can definitely use some of these ideas. These are the first 2 pages. I haven't put the whole novel in there because it's about 55 pages long. I've just put some key pages. So there you are, there's some more. Have a think about the layout of the pictures. It varies from page to page. So if I were you guys doing this job, I would choose one page as my inspiration and maybe design my page in that style. Whether I want to be drawing a close-up of characters, whether I want to be including speech and what speech I want to be included. There's the final page there. You can break it up into sections like this one and show different perspectives. Or if I go back one, you can just do 1 or 2 pictures and split them up. You can do a picture in the background and then in the foreground, like this one with this evil looking man here, do little boxes in front. You just need to have a little look, play around, and choose what you fancy, choose what suits you. Okay, couple of top tips then from me about this job before I say d'abord. What I just talked about, base your page off an example from the Newport Rising graphic novel. Number 2, sketch a draft in pencil first. We will know if you have planned it and if you have sketched it out first, because those will be the best and the most engaging graphic novel pages. That is what this author did. That's what all authors and illustrators need to do first to make sure that their graphic novel is the best it can possibly be. Third point, I would advise you to send your draft to your teacher for some feedback. You don't have to, you can self-assess if you'd rather. You could send it to a friend, you could ask them to peer assess if they could give you any ideas for some improvements if you want to. But I would advise, as well as all that, to send it to your teacher, who will be able to give you some pointers and some even better ifs. Please read, check against the success criteria that you've ticked all of those boxes. Again, that's how you're going to be successful. And finally, just have fun with it. You've got 2 activities this week that are creative, that are very open-ended. We want to see loads of different pieces of work. We don't want to have 2 pieces of work that are the same. It's entirely over to you guys. I know that me, Miss Davis and Miss Thomas are so excited to see what you come up with this week. Just remember, they're not short little jobs, they're bigger projects, if you like. They will take a bit more time, and that is absolutely fine. That's what we want to see, okay? And we're here to help you every single step of the way. Oh, I'm so excited. Finally, before I go then, I asked you to have a little think about the 3 purposes we are engaging with this week. Now you'll know what those jobs are. Perhaps you could have a little bit of a think about how we are meeting those 3 purposes. So how are we becoming knowledgeable about our culture and our community in the past? How are we going to set ourselves high standards? How are we going to challenge ourselves and enjoy the challenge along the way? How are we going to think creatively to reframe and to solve the problems that we have posed to you? I would love, and I know your other teachers would love, to hear what you have to say and to hear your reflections about the 4 purposes, or the 3 we're focusing on, and how you think we're going to meet those this week. So please don't hesitate to send those over to us. That is it. That's everything from me. If you have any other questions, don't forget your teachers are here on Seesaw. Please just drop us a message anytime. You know, we'll get back to you in school hours. There's nothing left for me to say now other than have a fantastic week, everyone. Nish you all loads and d'abord.